everybody. Welcome to this Small Business Saturday edition of Furthermore with Amanda Head. I am so excited that you are here with me, and we're going to stick on the comedy thing last week. I encourage you to go check out the Small Business Saturday episode from last week. It was Shonda Pierce. She is a legendary comedian. She has been in the industry for over 3 decades, and she is absolutely hilarious. So we're going to stay on that with Michael Loftus. If any of you tune in for my nightly TV show Monday through Friday with John Solomon, he and I have had Michael Loftus on the TV show before, and it's because he's a longtime comedian in Hollywood, and he moved over to he came out of the closet, as he talks about, I believe in 2014. But he has done so many amazing things to create funny content and to fill that corner of the market with respect to conservative politics and conservative comedy. So many of you are familiar with his production, That Show Tonight. They have done a number of shows that have been broadcast online. You sign up and you get the link, and then you're able to watch it live, but you can also go in person. There were a number of events that took place on Long Island at the America First Warehouse, and then he recently has been doing comedy shows at Redneck Riviera, which is John Rich's club in Nashville, his bar in Nashville. So we are going to have Michael Loftus on in just a few moments. He has a new entity. It's called StudioTST. And I am so excited to introduce this to you, because for those of you out there who are yearning to watch TV and have something funny or entertaining to engage in, and you don't want to be blasted in the face with woke garbage and politics, you are going to absolutely love this idea. So stick around and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. I have so much enjoyed doing this Small Business Saturday series, and we have tried to diversify the businesses that we cover. And, I think we've kind of been on this comedy thread lately, which I think is important, because so much of what's happening around us in this world, whether it's politics, world events, conflicts overseas, everything just seems like it is bearing down on us and depressing us. And it is so important that we keep things in perspective. And you guys know that I love supporting people who are, I say on the right side of the aisle, conservative, Republican, but these days, practically anyone who's not loony left kind of falls into that category of sanity, especially with respect to comedy. So I'm so excited to bring in my guest today. He's Michael Loftus. He is the executive producer for That Show Tonight, and he is also the co-creator of something new called StudioTST that we're going to talk about in just a few moments. But Michael, it's an honor having you here. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's great to be here. Congratulations on everything. I'm a big fan, and you're just going. You're like a freight train of success. You keep rocking it.
Well, listen, I learned from the best, and people like you who you are consistently bringing fresh material. Now, the Biden-Harris administration definitely provides us all, unfortunately, with fresh material of things to criticize, but you have such an uncanny way of keeping it lighthearted and keeping us from really just wallowing in our sorrows with respect to everything that's happening these days. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you, and that is a compliment, because when we set out with That Show Tonight, the only reason I wanted to move forward with this as a project at all was like, this cannot be mean spirited. This just
Right.
has to be it has to be funny first and foremost. Because it would be really easy to get up on a soapbox and start screaming at the
Yes.
clouds, but it's more fun, it's way more entertaining, and it's not stupid.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I love about it, because it is really, really hard, I would imagine, in the comedy space. I'm not a comedian, but, to come up with material that is fresh and witty and exciting. But as you said, it's not mean-spirited. I mean, there are plenty of things about this administration, like you said, that we could really dig in on. How do you find that inspiration? And frankly, I'm going to say it, how do you resist the temptation to get mean about it? Because and I hate to admit it, but behind closed doors, I can be mean-spirited about them, because everything they are doing is destroying our country. How do you
Oh,
how do you
yeah,
remove yourself from that?
I get it out. When we're talking about the material we're gonna do for the next week's show, that's when we just go, just like Gatling guns. Just get that
Yeah.
out of your system, get that out, and then you'll almost always find something that makes everybody laugh.
Yeah.
So like, okay, well, let's do that. but it really is. It's like it's like a funny non-woke version of Saturday Night Live, and we
Yeah.
all get together on Monday. We start talking about ideas, we start working them out. Then Tuesday's rehearsal, we film some stuff. Wednesday's more rehearsal, and then Thursday we're so happy. We've been doing these shows in Nashville at John Rich's place, the Redneck
Yeah.
Riviera, which has just been an absolute blast. And it's the wonderful part about this, and this is we were doing this in New York too, and don't worry, New York, we're coming back. Highlighting musical artists because I really love the almost like the old school variety show vibe. You get somebody up
Yes.
there who's just telling jokes, then you have a couple skits, and then we highlight uh a new musical artist. We had I believe the guy's name was Keith Walker, and nominated for a Grammy. Just an amazing talent. So he did a couple of songs, and boy, it just flies by like that. And it's so much fun.
And you know what's amazing about that? And I think about those old school variety shows. It feels like even people who traditionally are late night comedy show consumers, they have abandoned that, and everyone is thirsting for this. Everyone is thirsting for a show that just makes them laugh and entertains them and is not necessarily chock full of confirmation bias on their politics.
Well, that's too funny, but that's how Studio TST really came into to being, like as an entity, as a streaming service, as a business idea. Because I come at this, I started many moons ago as a stand-up comic, moved to LA, and then kind of fell into writing on sitcoms. And the one of the first shows I ever wrote on was the George Lopez show. And towards the end of that run, someone had pitched a joke that was a little knock on Christianity,
Mm.
you know. And then one of my buddies, who was a producer on the show, who goes, "Okay, let's take out that word. Let's take out Jesus and let's switch that with Muhammad."
Uh-huh.
And suddenly it got real unfunny really fast. So I've seen the handwriting on the wall, and it's a lonely feeling sometimes when you're like, I am way ahead of the curve here, but
Yeah.
we need to start. Because as you watch Twitter get taken out in Brazil, and then you have Kamala Harris, talking about freedom of speech and the internet. There could not be The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The
Right.
next best time is today.
Yep.
So I've immediately, like, I've gone into starting the streaming service 110%, gathering content, and I want to give creators and funny people and artists and talented storytellers a place to show their stuff. Because
Yeah.
these guys, they're making these wonderful documentaries, they're making these short films and cartoons. Amazon's not going to show it, Netflix
Nope.
isn't going to show it, and it's not going to fit other little boxes of places. So yeah, Studio TST, I want to be the home for all of that stuff.
I love that. And I want to dig into that, but I want to go back to something you mentioned about George Lopez. And George Lopez, frankly, is a perfect example of someone who's in the entertainment space who somehow is just and I think this is true still, but the last time I heard from him, he's just a radical leftist. And you see the direction of late night shows with Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel, and gone are the days of people like Jay Leno, who were equal opportunity offenders, and even Conan O'Brien to some degree. I think he was kind of a segue or a transition from the old school guys to the new school guys. How have conservatives managed to lose so much of a market share in the comedy space?
Because and I've thought about this for years. For years. They think it doesn't matter.
Mm.
They think storytelling doesn't matter. And they go, "Oh, I don't even watch the Academy Awards. I don't even watch
Yeah.
that. I don't even watch that." Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Your kids do. Your kids
Of
do.
course,
And
yeah.
they grew up on stuff like Teletubbies and the Care Bears.
Yep.
The Teletubby, and this is going to sound like tinfoil hats, but this is the truth. The woman who created Teletubbies envisioned a future where children would be interacting with computer screens and TV screens a lot. So she set out to make a show where a computer screen was the friendliest creature on planet Earth. So when a kid just they're television tubbies, Teletubbies. That's
Uh-huh.
what that is. And Care Bears. I was watching I was watching the Labor Day special of the Five the other day, just to see what my buddy Greg was saying. Jessica Tarlov. Jessica Tarlov said her favorite show growing up was the Care Bears. And I'm like, yeah, I bet it was. Because that's pretty much, we can't do it alone. We need a
Yeah.
community. I'm worthless by myself, but maybe if we all try, it's pretty much a love letter to communism. And I know how crazy that sounds, but when it's in every movie, it's in every piece of cinema, it's in every all the storytelling. So it's just a constant drip drip drip. So until people on the right, you have to participate. You
Yeah.
just have to participate. You can't go, oh, everybody else is in the pool swimming, but I don't even swim. And then all of a sudden the wave hits you and you got
Mm.
nothing. You can't get mad at me.
Yeah. And that's it's interesting because you bring up the Jessica Tarlov example with respect to Care Bears. It's it's not even just anymore this notion that we are better as a collective, this notion that you can remove individualism, remove autonomy, remove personal responsibility. And I know we've had these conversations with you on the TV show as well. It's nowadays with sitcoms and practically every TV show out there, whether it's a drama or a comedy, or it doesn't really matter. You have a husband who's a bumbling idiot who
Yep.
can't seem to either hold down a job or take care of the family or, organize the household. Or it's the fact that every single show seems to have some LGBTQ plus question, blah, 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 element to it. It is so insidious. You can't even see a commercial that doesn't have something like this in it.
That's right. It is everywhere you look. So the only answer is to start creating your own. This is wild. I was recording my podcast the other day, and I stumbled across this quote by C.S. Lewis,
Mm.
and the guy, the Narnia books, and he's like, your children are bound to meet. I'm paraphrasing here, but like your kids are going to grow up into a very mean world. So at least let them hear about heroes and their noble deeds. They've eliminated that. And by
Yeah.
they, I mean the woke left and the liberal media, all of it. Kids today, they can't even go to like, oh, John Wayne or Tarzan,
Mhm.
someone who's like who has to dig deep and do it on their own. They've eliminated that hero, and the next thing they're doing is eliminating uh good and bad. Like
Yeah.
everything is this moral gray. I was watching the Rings of Power, so I could review that for my YouTube channel. And like the orcs from Lord of the Rings, these things they're pure evil. They're pure evil. Not in this show.
Oh
They're
my
completely,
gosh.
we
Oh
don't
my
want to
gosh.
go to war. I've got a wife and child to think about. So now, like the orcs are like the illegal immigrants of Middle Earth,
Right,
and
right.
it was hilarious.
So are we just catering to the dumbest and weakest among us? Is that the
Yes,
problem?
yes, and
Yeah.
and we have to and we have to just realize that and say it out loud, and then make a decision that like you have to stand up for what your kids are reading and what they're watching and what their education is like. That's first and foremost. We got to do
Yeah.
something about the public schools and school choice. Second of all, we should be throwing money, and I mean throwing money at any conservative filmmaker,
Amen.
storyteller,
Amen.
singer, songwriter, artist. My buddy John Rich does this event with Cat Turd from Twitter,
Yes.
and I'll be in on that this year. But he
Awesome.
knows that these great singer songwriters, that have been like ostracized from that little niche songwriting community in Nashville. So he'll like, hey, let's buy this guy's song so he can like pay the bills and make more music because it's like it's got a great message and all that stuff. Oh, that's where I want to be. That's my
Yeah.
wheelhouse. There's artists like I want that guy to not have to, I want to support him the way everybody supports Taylor Swift, the
Yeah.
way everybody, supports Lady Gaga and all these other wackadoodles.
Right. I want to ask you something philosophical regarding comedy because
Sure.
there are, and I had a conversation with Shonda Pierce, who's another comedian, about this last week. Philosophically speaking, you have the Dave Chappelles out there who are still offensive to people. And look,
Yes.
I remember that Netflix special that he came out with probably 4 or 5 years ago. And the amazing thing about it was that he offended people on both sides of the aisle. He was making jokes about trans, he was making jokes about Christians. But the interesting thing was that you watch the reaction from every group of people who was offended, which, let's face it, when it's Dave Chappelle, it's every group because he's an equal opportunity offender. But the reaction by the right was so diminished compared to the folks on the left. It's like, have people on the left, politically speaking, lost their sense of humor?
Yeah. Yeah. And they were encouraged to do this. They were
Mm,
encouraged to do it through the public schools. When people started doing this, like as a kid, I'm old school. My mom, my grandma, they were all like, sticks and stones may break your bones, but that was everybody's mantra.
yes, yeah,
Once upon a time, that was like
yeah,
that was the American mantra. Said
yeah,
like Yankee Doodle Dandy. This is a fun to know fact. Yankee Doodle Dandy is an insult.
right, yep,
A Yankee is like cheese breath, and a doodle is a numbskull, whatever.
yeah.
We used to be able to take this. Then we started this crap with words hurt.
Mm,
Words hurt. Guess what? No, they don't.
no, they
I
don't.
guarantee they don't.
Yeah.
And then that always makes me laugh because it's like, is this like a Harry Potter thing? Am I magic? I can just say a word. I can make a series of noises and your feelings are hurt.
Yes,
So
and
yes,
inflict pain. Yeah.
yes, right.
Oh, man,
We
it's
did
unbelievable.
we did a cartoon like that for that show tonight where it's this superhero, woke ma'am, and her kryptonite is when someone says Trump is a good president. It just Trump. Oh, can't because words hurt.
Oh my gosh, I
But
love it.
this is what we've done. People
Yeah.
feel like, oh, I'm offended. And so why does that matter to me? Why does that matter to me? I don't care. I honestly
Yeah.
don't care. Keep
Yeah.
scrolling, dummy.
Right.
And so the right has always been able to take a joke, and the
Absolutely.
left used to be able to take a joke. But boy, you start talking smack about Obama. I remember years ago I was in a comedy club and Obama said he had visited all 57 states. And I'm
Yeah, I
like, hey,
remember that. Oh yeah.
I'm like, is this guy? It was a lame joke. Like, is he the president of the United States or is he working on a steak sauce? Is it
Yeah.
Heinz 57? And literally, a couple got up and left, and they're
Oh
like,
my
we are
gosh.
not going to sit here and let you make fun of the president of the United States. And I'm like, oh yeah, I bet you walked out of a lot of comedy clubs when they were
Hmm.
making fun of George Bush.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh, I'm sure.
see you later. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
That's right. That's right. Well, speaking of people hopefully being able to take a joke, your recent sketch about Tim Walls, or as I call him, Tim A. Walls, is absolutely amazing. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, but everybody, you got to check this out
A
as we
walls.
take commercial break. We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. It's Minnesota Governor Tim Walz here, and I really want to be your VP. Won't you help me and Kamala get to the White House and turn this country around? It's a campaign full of joy. We got joy to the left and joy to the right. It's filling our hearts. They're breaking. They're so happy. Sometimes the arm just goes on its own, and I have to wait for it to stop. Give it a second. And we're done. Here's what we need. We need you to make a donation. And you're like, Tim, darn it. Every time I turn around, somebody's asking me for gosh darn money. Well, one more guy is me. And you can trust me to know what's best, because this money's going to be used for our campaign. And I know how to do that. I'm going to coach us. Like, I'm a head coach. I took those kids to the state championship. All the other coaches quit, and I said, no, you don't. We're going. Here we go. And we did it. Just like I did it in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, and WW2 before that. I've seen combats. I've fired tank grenades from my shoulder. I know what I'm doing. That's why I like the state fairs. I know how to spend money. Now, some of you might be worried. And you think, what if my neighbor doesn't want to spend? Well, here's what you do. You call the hotline and you turn in your neighbor. That's how it works. In the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz neighborhood of socialist tendencies, you can phone in and turn in your neighbor for doing stuff you don't like. Don't you want that? I'm prepared to do anything. I want your help. Ingen Schwangen, it's a joyful. Whoa, I slipped into German there. It's okay. We'll fix that in post. You need to give generously. You need to dig deep. If you only have 25 cents, if you only have 17 cents, if you only have 13 cents, maybe you've only got 6 cents and you're like, this guy's insane. Don't listen to that one. Dig deep. Help a veteran who desperately needs IFV so I can put more tampons in the restrooms of our hearts.
Welcome back, everybody. I am absolutely honored and blessed to have Michael Loftus here. Michael, I want to get into StudioTST because the parallel economy is something that is so desperately needed. And it seems like, especially within the last 5 years or so, conservatives have really done a great job of filling some of these gaps in the economy. And when it comes to content creation and entertainment and just anything that we as conservatives want to consume, because conservatives are people too. It's not just liberals who want to be able to have funny things to watch and entertaining things and things that make us feel good. Conservatives are people too. So talk to us about your inspiration behind StudioTST, because I know obviously that's a gap that needed to be filled. But what made you decide to go ahead and jump into that?
Well, we started with that show tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh, we're going to do this one show, but we'll do it for everybody. We'll do it, so we'll broadcast it on the internet. And so, because I had seen really good apps like Parler got unplugged, Amazon was just like, we don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you did was we started we got our own servers, we got our own computer servers and all that, which seems really weird for a comedy show. Like, oh, we should buy. So we did that, and the show is going great, and people subscribed. It was like $5 a month. And like once a month we would do shows, and people were showing up, and it was great. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, wait a second. If we can do one show and we have our own servers, I know this guy that has this movie, and I know this other guy that has this TV show, and I know a bunch of people in Hollywood that can't wait for this thing to take off so they can zip in. Right now, no one has a soft place to land. You've got Angel Studios, and they're doing great, but they have a very specific niche, and they're making wonderful stuff.
Yep.
And then you have Daily Wire as well. They're doing some wonderful stuff. I want to do something that's just entertainment, just like, check your ego at the door, come in here. And that sitcom that you tried to sell to Fox, or you tried to sell to Netflix, or you tried to sell to Amazon, but they said no because the husband wasn't a moron. Bring it over here. Bring it over here. And so we rebranded. We're calling it StudioTST. We kept the price the same because, like, as a consumer, I know how like it bugs me. Like when Amazon is like, hey, we're gonna charge the same amount, but now here's some commercials, and then everybody else is hiking, and I'm like, let's keep the price the same, but like quintuple the amount of content.
Yeah.
And so now it's like we're gonna be live streaming Turd Stock. We've got hundreds of hours of these great stand-up specials. We've got that show tonight. We've got original films. We've got classic films. We've got music specials that are coming up. They are lining up like planes at LAX, and I'm just there's not enough time in the day. But and this is why I'm so happy to be on your show. it's just getting the word out. This is like
Yeah.
such a grassroots things. Boy, the USA Today's and the Washington Posts and the New York Times, they don't want to have anything to do with this story. They don't want to
No,
know
of
about
course
it,
not.
nothing.
Nope.
So we're just building it through word of mouth and having an absolute blast.
I think it's amazing, and you have been, you know, your audience is very loyal to you, but you have been so good to your audience because people who are already subscribed to that show tonight, they've that crosses over into Studio TST, right?
Yeah. That was a major pain in the bahunkus. But there's another thing that bugs me when they're like, "Oh, you got to change your sign in, you got to change your
Oh,
password,
so
you got."
annoying, so
I'm
annoying.
like, I would rather wait 3 or 4 months and make
Yes.
sure that everybody just like it's easy. Look at
Yep.
that. So it took us a
Seamless.
little bit longer to do it, but everybody, your password is the same. Your
That's
username is the
awesome.
same. It's a much better experience. So,
That's
because
awesome.
I will delete you off my phone if like
Yeah.
this and everybody wants on your phone. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you go to the gas station, they're like, you could save $100 today. Can we get on your phone? I'm like, no,
Right.
it's creepy. You're not allowed on my phone.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I want to ask you something, you know, going back to what we were talking about a little while ago with respect to traditional Hollywood and comedians in Hollywood, because I know that, you know, you still have connections and friends who are deeply embedded in Hollywood and the comedy community out here in Los Angeles and places like New York and even Chicago.
Yeah.
Um, I think that for a lot of us, we all think back to that epic hosting gig by Ricky Gervais. And was that the Golden Globes? I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, a lot of people think back to that. And what was so wonderful about that was it felt like Ricky Gervais was the voice of the American people punching those Hollywood elites in their faces. And it went viral and people still watch that video. I will still go back and watch that video,
Yes.
but you watch the discomfort on the faces of the celebrities in that audience. And I wanted to ask you because again, I know you have these connections. Do you think that hurt them? Do you think that it made a dent? Do you think that they thought to themselves, "Wow, if that's what this guy is saying and he's getting such good reception, maybe there's some truth to it?" Or do you think that they are just so consumed and so audacious and so cocky in their talent that it didn't phase them?
That's a really good question. And I think you probably have everybody on the spectrum. You probably do
Mm,
have the people all the way over to the left who are like, "Oh, he's just preaching to the cult of the
right.
MAGA people. He's
Yeah.
insane." And then you do have some people, and there are some smart actors.
Yeah.
I'll just say that the
Yep.
vast majority are dumb,
Yep.
but there are some smart ones, and some smart ones were probably going through that very like, holy moly,
Uh-huh.
am I completely out of touch? What is reality? And that's where you'll find, uh, there's a lot of, it usually is actresses because the window of opportunity used to be very, very tiny for actresses. Then they would just go disappear. They'd move back to Iowa or they'd move back to Connecticut. So they never really lost touch with the real world. They were
Oh,
they
that's a
were more
great point.
dialed in. But
Uh-huh.
like dudes will just go crazy. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure I'm sure like Tom Hanks was like, how dare he? How
Yeah. Oh,
how
yeah.
how dare he?
George Clooney and yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. So it's funny because the same thing is true on the right. Like I came out of the political closet in like 2014. And then, the elections were going on and all, yada yada yada. And I had a lot of friends that just kind of wrote me off. They're
Mm,
like, "Okay, well, you're obviously crazy and I don't feel the need to stay in contact with you."
wow.
My phone will ring at least once a month with one of these guys going, "Dude, I thought you were crazy, but
Oh,
you were just ahead of the curve.
yep.
I apologize." And I'm like, "Hey, no worry about it, man. Water under the bridge. I want to get you on
Yeah,
Studio
come on over.
TST."
Yeah.
My buddy Bert Kreischer this afternoon, like he and I were on tour for a couple of years together. He did a video. He walked into a Rite Aid today in Los Angeles, and he's like, "What's going on, you guys? What is going on? The shelves were empty.
Oh, I saw
Anything
your
of
tweet about that. Yeah.
yeah, anything of value was gone or locked
Oh,
up." And he's like in shock. He's
yep.
like, he's literally going, "Hey guys, what's going on? Have you been asleep?"
Yes, yes. Yeah, apparently.
And they have. And so that's what we're doing with that show tonight. I think, just really quickly, my philosophy on this is that, like, most people are just incredibly busy. They have incredibly busy lives, and they'll they'll turn on the news for a little bit. They'll get caught up, and they go, "Okay, my friends over at NBC told me here's what's going on. Now I have to get to soccer practice. I got to do laundry. I got to get the dinner ready. I got work tomorrow." So they
Yeah.
just see this. They see this little sliver of like a fake reality. And then it's easy to say their friends can go, "Oh, those guys over there, they're crazy. Don't even listen to them." And so
Mm-hmm.
they move on. So that's why the pop culture element is so important. So as they're scrolling on, on YouTube or TikTok, and then they see an ad for like, "Oh, that's funny. What's that?" Now they can come in. Now we can
Right.
bring them in. You get them through laughter and entertainment. And then, just like the left has been injecting their ideas, we celebrate our ideas.
Amen. I love that because it's almost like you get just like a tiny little crack in their ideology.
Yes.
And I know you've heard this too from friends, like your comedian friends, where there's one little teeny tiny thing that makes them question everything they've been told. And then it's like just the red pills are just showering them because
Yes.
once they find out that they've been lied to about one thing, game over.
Yes. Yeah. Which is truly amazing that we're watching this whole election go down now. And they tell us it's close, which I have a hard time believing. But like, these are people who are still listening to the same media
Yeah.
that told us beyond a shadow of a doubt that Trump was a Russian agent. He
Yep.
was a Russian asset. He was working for the Russian. So after all those accusations, and after, the Mueller report and all that money, they still believe it.
Yep.
So, because it's cemented in, it's like a
Right.
constant.
I feel like
So
it's a
yeah.
religion to them too. I mean, there's something that is theological about it for them.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a woke religion. It really,
Yeah.
it's more important than money.
Yeah.
It's it
Yeah, clearly.
That's what
Clearly.
that's what was like the final thing that got me out of Hollywood was pitching a show, and Netflix loved it, Amazon loved it, the syndicated, everybody loved it. They go, "We can't put this on right now. We can't afford to look friendly to the right." And I'm like, and they admitted, they go,
Wow.
"We would make a ton of money. It would be a huge success. We'd make a ton of money." And I'm like, "Okay, so when doing good work and making a ton of money doesn't matter, you're now looking at a religious movement."
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I
that
think
was a big wake up call.
yeah, I think you stated that perfectly. And I want to ask you, we'll wrap up with the future of what the landscape looks like for entertainment because, I think for a lot of us, we have been appalled to see the left's reaction to what happened on October 7th of last year. And to see this administration, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris straddling the fence, appeasing Palestinians, appeasing Hamas. I mean, even this week, we've got more of these protests happening on college campuses. And I live in Los Angeles. I still talk to people who are Jewish Americans who are very powerful in the entertainment community. And I wonder, do you think that there's a chance that because it's you have a lot of studio heads and people who are on, the 20th floor of these buildings in Century City, who are Jewish, and they are witnessing what's happening. And these are the people who greenlight productions. They're the people who fund this stuff. They're the people who have a major say in who produces it, who the director is, who the DP is, all the way down the line. Do you think that we are in a time where that can possibly draw more talent over to the conservative side?
Oh, absolutely. It's I imagine there's a lot of people in the entertainment business And they're the same people who give money to Harvard and these other
Mm-hmm.
Ivy League schools. They've come to America. Their family's done very well in the entertainment business or what have you. And now they're sitting around their giant mansions like Dr. Frankenstein. And they're thinking, what have I done?
Yeah, yeah,
What have I? Oh my goodness. And they'll put it together rather quickly. And I want to say that it was Hollywood in early 1920s, 1930s. Hollywood was successful because of super patriotic Jewish immigrants.
mm-hmm.
They came to this country. They loved this country. Louis B. Mayer, during World War II, and he's like, no, we have to. We're gonna do that. He had a very like a value set that the
Yeah,
movie stuck by. Now, I'm not for censorship or anything, but those movies are fantastic,
yeah,
and a lot of people when they discover Studio TST and what we're doing, the door is wide open. And this is like when they started United Artists
yeah,
back in the day. It's like a bunch of idiots come together, but they're creative and they start
yeah.
making stuff. I tell you, and I would rather have who's the guy that just played Reagan in that movie? Who's
Oh,
who's
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. Dennis
Yeah,
Quaid got red pilled. I would
yeah,
rather, I tell you, if after Trump, I'm okay. I would be okay with Dennis Quaid pretending to be Reagan as the next
yeah. I
president
know, I know.
after Trump. Anything is better than the possibility of Tim Walz. Tim Wall, this guy, we can't have him.
I
We can't
know.
have a State of the Union. I'm
Yeah,
Tim Walz. Hi, everybody. It's great to be on The
yeah.
Price is Right.
Oh my gosh. And I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if it was technically claymation, but Santa Claus is coming to town, Burgermeister Meisterburger. Do you remember that
Yes.
character and his downturned mouth? It is Tim Walz to a T. You put a side-by-side picture of Tim Walz and Burgermeister Meisterburger, and they're the same person. It's
Yes.
unbelievable. Okay, I want to make sure that we really hit Studio TST before I let you go. If people sign up, maybe they are already signed up for that show tonight, which is wonderful because, as you said, it has just been a seamless transition for them. But for people who are yearning for the content that you're putting out, because I think one of your recent shows, you guys got 2 million viewers, which is more than every single late night show. So it's obvious that you guys are putting out good stuff. So if people sign up for Studio TST, what can they expect to get?
So they get the entire catalog of every show that we've done to date, including the
Awesome.
most recent show that we just did at the Redneck Riviera,
Yeah.
and a wonderful bevy of guest stars and musical guests and card. So that's wonderful. We also have this wonderful series that was filmed at this great comedy club called Rascals back in the day, and it's great to watch all these performers who are now household names,
Yeah.
like right before they hit, like Joe Rogan, Jim Brewer, Ray
Amazing.
Romano. There we have 400 hours of this, and it is a who's who in comedy. There's a
It's
clip of
incredible.
Joy Behar. There's a clip of Joy Behar where she's complaining about too many illegal immigrants. It's
What?
it's gonna break the internet. We haven't unleashed that one. So we have stand-up specials. My stand-up special, we're gonna be adding that very soon. We have feature films, original feature films. We've got some great documentaries. We're putting the finishing touches on this up and coming Nashville Stars program that we're doing.
Awesome.
Then we're going to be doing the live event at the Redneck Riviera, more shows. So we're constantly bringing it, and I just think $5 a month, even if you don't
That's
even watch,
nothing.
even if you don't watch,
Yeah.
that's a gallon of gas.
Yeah. 1 gallon. Yeah. Yeah. Sadly, in Joe Biden's economy here in California, that's less than a gallon of gas.
Ouch.
I know it's devastating. All right, studiotst.com, is that where everybody can go and find it?
That is the great spot. That's the home of it all.
All right, last question. You guys do a lot of shows at the America First Warehouse in New York. You're doing
Yes.
Nashville. When are you going to come to LA?
Oh my gosh. We need to find a space in LA. We
Yeah.
really do. There is but you got me thinking.
If I find you a theater, can we work it out?
We will work it out. We
Okay.
will work it
Deal.
out. And now I got my brains turning. It would be a beach community. That's all I'm gonna say. It would be a
Okay.
beach community, but I already know who I'm gonna hit up.
All right. Well, let me just tell you, I went to a conservative comedy show at this place called the Comedy Chateau in North
Okay.
Hollywood, and a lot of great conservative comedians. One of Greg Gutfeld's writers, and it was, there are these places across Los Angeles that I think are just sick of the same garbage being spat from the stage by frankly uncreative, untalented comedians who are really
Yeah.
just going for the low-hanging fruit, because ultimately that's what it is. They're lazy. It's very, very easy to make fun of conservatives.
Yes, and it's like they have the blinders on. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't even talk about that. It might offend those guys. I can't even talk about that. It could offend that group
Yep.
of people. So it's all going to be in this one little narrow
Mm-hmm.
band. And no, everybody, we are an equal opportunity maker, funner, over comedy
I
show.
love it. I love it. All right. Tell everybody where they can find out more about all of your productions and you personally.
Okay. For me, my site is the Loftus Party, theloftusparty.com. That's where I'll have my stand-up dates, my hot takes on politics and pop culture. The one that everybody really needs, though, beyond that, like theloftusparty.com, that's probably America's favorite website at this point.
I agree.
Then you need StudioTST.com for all your entertainment needs. Those
Awesome.
two websites and this show. Then
That's
you're
all
all
you
set.
need. That's
That's
all
all you
you
need.
need. I love it. Michael Loftus, you are such a legend in the comedy space, and I love everything you do. Every time I hear about a new venture by Michael Loftus, it's a no-brainer to sign up. $5 a month, everybody, $50 for the whole year. That is nothing. That's less than a tank of gas for pretty much anyone in this country.
Or a tank of cats. We don't know what your vehicle runs on.
Oh, you're gonna start angering those cat ladies like JD Vance did.
I'm
Oh
a
boy.
single cat lady. That was hilarious. And
Oh.
then the camera cuts to that big girl and she's
Yeah, yeah. And Jennifer Aniston gets offended. I'm like, of course Jennifer Aniston got offended. Ridiculous.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Poster child, as Donald Trump would say, central casting for the quintessential childless cat lady.
Dig it.
All right. Michael, thank you so much. It's been an honor. Thank you for your time, and we'll have you back on again soon.
Yeah, let's do it again soon.
Beautiful, beautiful. Take care, my friend. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side of these commercials. Welcome back, everybody. I want to stay on the topic of Hollywood for a moment because I know for a lot of us, for a long time, we haven't cared about Hollywood. And, gone are the days. I moved to Los Angeles in 2006, and that was kind of the height of the Hollywood clubbing scene. Many people, if you're around my age, you're familiar with the website Perez Hilton. And that was back during his bullying phase, which he has since reformed from that. But that was during the days when you had people like Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan, and Ashley Tisdale and all of these little starlets of the early 2000s who were out night clubbing. And that was just that for my generation, people were actually paying attention to what Hollywood was doing and saying and things like that. And we have certainly moved beyond that. I honestly, unless it is a news website that has an entertainment tab, I have no idea usually what's happening as far as celebrity gossip. I do obviously engage in what Hollywood is putting out because I think it's important for us to participate. If you're not in the arena, then you have absolutely no influence. So I do pay attention to, what productions are coming out, sometimes what people are saying. But the celebrity gossip thing has fallen by the wayside. And I feel like that is the general consensus and take and sentiment for most Americans, because most Americans are just so sick of being pontificated to by people who are immoral and ignorant and lacking pretty much any information to form any type of substantive or informed opinion. So that said, I do want to stay on something somewhat Hollywood related. And I, as I said, I don't typically engage anymore in Hollywood gossip or care what celebrities say. I'm not terribly consistent with that, because when celebrities say something that I think supports the right side of the aisle, conservative values, Christian values, Donald Trump, things like that, then I will pay attention. And so I guess that makes me a bit of a hypocrite. I don't know. I feel like so many of us are just, like I said, we are yearning for sanity coming out of Hollywood. So every time we get a little piece of it, it's something that I think should be paid attention to and probably should be elevated, because there's always a good chance that someone in Hollywood who is willing to speak out and willing to go against the norm, there's always a chance that those people can influence others. Now, Tyrese, many of you are familiar with him. He was a supermodel back in, I think, like the mid-90s, and then he went into acting. He's been a part of the Transformers franchise, Fast and Furious. Pretty well known, very handsome Black man. And he very vocally supported Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for president. Well, he has since spoken out against Kamala Harris specifically because if any of you remember that the Asian hate crime bill that came out in 2021, it was mainly because of COVID. There were a lot of hate crimes, frankly, many perpetrated by Black Americans on Asian Americans during the whole era of COVID. So Joe Biden signed this bill into law. And so Tyrese has thoughts. Let's just put it that way. So he said, where is the same effing law to be signed into law when it comes to Black and brown people? Now, I wish that Tyrese would educate himself on the percentage of crimes that are perpetrated on Black and brown people by Black and brown people. But anyway, moving on. So he gave an interview with civil rights attorney Ben Crump, and he was targeting this bill and targeting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. He said President Biden and Kamala Harris signed an Asian hate crime bill, which makes it beyond illegal, whatever that's supposed to mean, to ever purposely or maliciously do anything to anybody in the Asian community. He said that before erroneously claiming that President Trump motivated the attacks against Asian Americans, whatever. He said, so everybody started treating Asians, beating them, killing them, shooting them, stabbing them, hurting them. And then Biden gets into the White House and skips over every Black and brown, Mexican and Latino that has been getting killed like flies. And he makes it a low Asian hate crime bill. I don't know what he meant by that. He said there's a crime bill that was signed into law that protects Asians at all costs. Where is that same effing law to be signed into law when it comes to Black and brown people? Because what you're doing is, President Biden and Kamala Harris, what you're doing is you're saying that Black and brown people will continue to be disposable, that SHIT doesn't make sense. So while he has a pretty erroneous set of facts when it comes to hate crimes against Black and brown people, I guess it's a hate crime if Black and brown people hate themselves and they want to kill their own community. But there is a hint of truth from what he is saying, which is that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, sure, every time they have a chance, they will consistently hop over the Black community. Kamala Harris doesn't care about the Black community until it becomes politically expedient to do so. And then she's talking about how she's washing her collard greens in the bathtub because she's that person in the family who's known for making the collard greens, which she associates with Black culture, which in my opinion is just Southern culture, but what do I know? So for Democrats across the board, and it's not just Kamala Harris, to be fair, it's Joe Biden, it's Bill Clinton, it's Barack Obama. They don't care about the Black community until it's time to vote. And you're starting to see a number of Black Americans, high-profile Black Americans, who are finally stepping out and saying this. They weren't allowed to say it before, but courage is contagious. So you get one to come out, you get another one and another one and another one, and they're finally speaking to the benefit of their own community, because that's what it ultimately is. It's saying the no thing out loud because you have a genuine concern for your community's plight, and your community's progress or regress. I think it's an incredibly courageous thing to do for especially Latinos or Hispanic Americans and Black Americans to speak out against Democrat policies that have historically been devastating to their own communities. And I hope that it continues to happen. And I hope that we have more of these high profile people, rappers, people like Amber Rose, who finally speak out about this stuff. And I hope that that courage does spread like wildfire and we continue to see people like this speaking out, because it's important. And it's not just important for this election. Obviously, this election is very important, but for our country to move beyond the racial division that, frankly, people like Barack Obama reignited in our culture, for us to move beyond that, that's what's got to happen. And like Donald Trump has said, a rising tide lifts all ships. Donald Trump, in his first term in office, signed into legislation and supported legislation and executive orders that were beneficial to all Americans. And as a result, you had record low unemployment with Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, women, Asian Americans across the board. And that was because he wasn't necessarily targeting a single demographic. He was trying to improve the economy for all Americans, and therefore everyone benefited from it. All right, everybody, that's my soapbox for this Saturday. Thank you so much for joining me for this Small Business Saturday. And remember to check out Michael Loftus and all of his platforms, all of his content on social media. You can tell from this interview that he is just absolutely hilarious. So go to StudioTST.com. That's where you can sign up monthly, or you can do the subscription. Again, $5 a month or $50 a year. It is nothing. That's like one cable bill a month. For the entire year. It's just insane. And all of that content that you heard him talking about that's on that platform, it is 1,000% worth it. So go check that out, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We are back with another audio version of the podcast on Monday, as we are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we're going to try to actually put out a special edition of the podcast tomorrow that we're going to kind of combine a bunch of interviews. So be on the lookout for that. Find me on social media at Amanda Head and on X at Furthermore Pod. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you later.